There ain't no grave can hold my body down. There ain't no grave can hold my body down. When I hear that trumpet.
Well, it's that type of start to a week, Browns fans. Yep. It's a Therapy Tuesday. Browns lose 27-20 to the Oakland freaking Raiders. A team, by the way, that had not beaten Cleveland in Cleveland since 1981. Had not won a road game in the Eastern time zone since 2009. If you were brand new to the game of football, you watched that game, you'd think the Oakland Raiders were bound for a deep playoff push. Browns fall to 1-2. Welcome to the Doghouse, your inside look at the Cleveland Browns. I'm Andy McNamara, alongside Browns insider from WKYC Sports in Cleveland, Matt Florjancic. Hey, we know you want to weigh in on Twitter at AndyMC81, at Matt Florjancic. You can email the show, thedoghouseshow@gmail.com. Make sure you get the free app on the Google App Store for Androids, The Doghouse. You can make sure you don't miss an episode there. Follow us on and subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, and Spreaker.com. Matt, I'd ask how are you, but I know the answer, so how are you dealing with this defeat?
By doing my job and focusing on Cavaliers Media Day yesterday.
Stop it, Matt. Not yet.
No, I in all seriousness, I looked at one of my fellow reporters at halftime of the game, and I said, you know what? This is so depressing. This team couldn't even make it to week 4 and still be relevant. They're absolutely irrelevant in the NFL circles right now, and more importantly, they're becoming irrelevant in their own hometown. That they already started the season with a bunch of apathy from the fans. I mean, it was as bad a mood as I've seen this town at the start of football season in a long, long time. And we've had a lot of reasons to be less than optimistic. And, you know, now I look at it and they finally have competition for the entertainment dollar because another team in the city is doing well, and people are going to want to spend the money to see that team rather than a bad football team. I mean, I knew a ton of people who gave up their season tickets before the start of the year because they asked their ticket representatives who was going to be my quarterback that would win games, and the ticket office said, well, we don't know the answer to that question. The Steelers probably don't have that problem. No. The Ravens probably don't have that problem.
Steelers
the Patriots
might now,
definitely don't have that problem. The Denver Broncos don't have that problem. But the Cleveland Browns since 1999 have had that problem. And, as you know, if the ship doesn't get righted soon, they're going to lose more and more people out of their fan base.
Matt, I don't remember who tweeted this out, but I was keeled over laughing. It said, the Earth has 7 billion people on it, and the Browns have not been able to find one to play quarterback since 1999. Shocking, but true. And here's what gets me. Last year, we started 1-2 as well with Brian Hoyer at quarterback. But this 1-2 feels so much different because last year you lost by a combined 5 points to the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. You listed off that they have quarterbacks. Last time I checked, they were pretty good franchises, despite the Ravens being 0-3 to start this year for the first time in their franchise history. So that was a much different looking 1-2, and you were much more optimistic going forward after that. Instead of starting the year against 3 teams that missed the playoffs, and you're 1-2 and get absolutely owned in 2 of those games. Like, that's the difference. That's where I think the apathy and the despair comes from. Because, Matt, I was at the game and on Sunday, and my voice is just coming back from it. I admit I was doing some Johnny chants at some points. I couldn't control myself. I tried, but I'm only human. And there was just such a despair in the city of just, well, here we go again.
That's exactly what it feels like, and the Browns better watch themselves because they're starting to skate on thin ice with a fan base that's just tired of losing. And when you already combine that with an apathetic start to the year, and then you look at deep into the opponents that they've played, in one game last year, they made a furious comeback that really showed you that they had some fight and some vigor in them. And this year, they somewhat mounted a comeback against the Raiders, but not enough to where I don't think Oakland ever really got uncomfortable.
Right.
It's a totally different feel. I mean, 1-2 still 1-2, but that was your easy portion of your schedule. Exactly. It only gets worse from here. October is a nightmare because you have one home game and you have a boatload of teams that look a lot better than they did a season ago or are just as good as they were. Then you look further on down the line. In November, you play a 3-game stretch in a 15-day period. And then in December, you have a bunch of away games. And, oh, by the way, you have a trip 3/4 of the way across the country to go to Seattle, who by that point will more than likely be in the hunt for a playoff spot despite their 1-2 start. So all indications are that the Browns have a lot of work to do, and they better start doing it, and they better start doing it quick, because this was an absolutely embarrassing loss, and anybody who walked out of that stadium the other day feeling good were wearing silver and black. That's the God's honest truth. There was not much to build off of from the Browns. They can't run the ball. They can't defend the run. They have zero idea what the hell a pass rush is.
I don't get
a rookie
that.
Wide receiver torched our best corner, who arguably fought through a very difficult injury for the entire game because he got hurt on the first play, but continued to be out there, and I'll tip my hat to him for that. But this team is going nowhere fast, and the strengths of the team look absolutely weak at this point.
You're listening to The Doghouse, your inside look at the Cleveland Browns. Andy McNamara alongside Browns insider from WKYC Sports in Cleveland, Matt Florjancic. We're bummed out. We're gonna tee up the San Diego game on Friday's show, but we want to hear from you from our Doghouse Twitter question of the day, and that is, and there you can make a case, a long, long list for both of these. Where do the Browns need to improve most, offense or defense? Real simple, Matt, question, but there is so much to dig into there. Again, on Twitter, at AndyMC81, at Matt Florjancic. Let's start with the offense, shall we? Okay? And you have Josh McCown, who, for a guy that is supposed to be the veteran, calming, okay, make the smart plays, make the throws you're supposed to make. That last throw, absolutely inexcusable to me that you did not get enough air under it and you underthrow Travis Benjamin. And it is well known I'm a Johnny Manziel fan. I'm not saying Johnny would have won that game, but Johnny would have got air under that ball. Johnny did get air under that ball. We did not see any accurate throws that were deep in the ball game. And I'll credit Gary Barnes. He had a hell of a day. And you were able to check down. We saw throws behind players. We saw throws ahead of players, above players, below players. Like the inaccuracy. And you're out. And he was out for 1 full week. So I'm not really buying this early in the season that there's a rust factor. But let's start with quarterback, Matt. At quarterback, what do you grade Josh McCown? And although they are going to go with McCown heading forward, would you stay that course, or would have you, if you were in charge, make the switch to Johnny for San Diego?
I understand them wanting to stick with a plan, but I also understand arrogance with a bad plan. And right now, Josh McCown is a bad plan.
Yep.
If Johnny Manziel cannot give this team a better shot to win, I don't understand, frankly, why he's even on the roster at this point.
Good
because
point.
He sure as hell looked like he gave us a pretty good shot to win.
He won!
And, he did win the game against the Titans. Now, you could say Travis Benjamin had a hell of a day, and you'd be right.
Who got him the ball, though, Matt? Who got him the ball?
Well, 2 of the 3 touchdowns he got, Manziel got him the ball. The other one was a punt return.
Exactly.
But, I got to believe that he can't be any worse than what we saw on Sunday. I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, there was a lot of missed timing, and you could definitely tell he'd been out of the lineup for 10 days. But to completely underthrow Travis Benjamin, I don't understand that, especially because we saw him all throughout, the off-season camps and training camp be able to throw the deep ball. It didn't just look like it was a missed throw. It looked like there was a confusion of what the route was supposed to be, because you look at where the ball ended up and it was out. It was an out route, basically along the sideline. You look at where Travis Benjamin was, and he was 7-8 yards deep in the end zone on the go route. So I think there was a little bit of a miscommunication on that play. They will not say it, but it sure looked like it from my observing standpoint. And in terms of grades for Josh McCown, I think a D+ is generous.
Yeah.
And that's probably what I'm going to end up giving him, because he did make a few throws and he did try and engineer a comeback late in the game, but it was too little too late. You can't dig yourself that big of a hole.
And what happens, Matt, is this offense, which had gotten out to quick starts, and that's really what they have to do, dragged. So what happens is it looks, to me, it looks like there's, okay, you mounted that comeback, but the Raiders were in a relaxed mode for much of that. They were defending the lead. They were giving cushions. You had more looks. So this isn't like this was a tie game and he was engineering these drives in tight coverage. There was some lax coverage down there. And I'm not putting it all on Josh McCown. I'm not. Because, once again, for whatever reason, the offensive line went back to, I felt, the way they played in the New York Jets game. No holes for the running backs. And when the running backs did get a little bit of daylight, lacked explosion, lacked elusiveness. Like Matt, we've said it a couple times on the show, but I am just not seeing anything special out of Isaiah Crowell or Duke Johnson. He had that one nice catch and run, but when actually handed the ball, ended up losing a yard. And even when he does get the ball in space, like there's just not that next level that I was expecting to see out of the hype. So to wrap up kind of the offense on that side, you look at the O-line and running backs, neither really doing a good job, and that's why you are forcing 36-year-old Josh McCown to throw the ball 50 times. That's a recipe for failure.
Well, anytime your quarterback lifts that many throws, it's a recipe for failure. But it's not a good situation in the fact that they don't have any continuity on offense for week. One week they'll do something good, and then the next week they look like they have never run it in their lives. I don't understand for the life of me how when you spend 20 hours a day as coaches for 5 days a week preparing for games, and you have all this time with your players from 6 to 6 every day, 4 days a week, how it looks that bad on a consistent basis. I just don't understand how you cannot find something that could look better. I watched the Monday Night Football game yesterday with my father-in-law, and I said, after the Packers made a couple of consecutive really good plays, I said, it just looks like a different sport. It really does look like a different sport that they're trying to play. And he looked at me and he's like, doesn't it though? And this is why I come home from the games and I'll watch whatever is left of the Sunday Night Football game. And my wife looks at me and says, haven't you had enough of bad football today? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I have to watch this so I know what the game is supposed to look like. Because I never see that on Sunday afternoon at First Energy Stadium. It doesn't look like the same game.
No.
It looks like we're trying to play touch football because, heaven forbid, we actually hit a quarterback, from an opposing team, and then you can't run the ball. It looks like we're trying to play a 7-on-7 game, and no offense to the guys that are out there working their tails off, we don't have the horses in the barn for that.
No, we really don't. Dwayne Bowe, by the way, inactive again. This guy is a complete dud, a complete bust. And as a man, as a professional, Dwayne Bowe should be ashamed of himself in how he is stealing money. $9 million given to him from his boy, Ray Farmer, the general manager, who, by the way, is still suspended. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Have some pride. You cannot tell me, Matt, that nursed hamstring is that big of a deal. If he wanted to be out there, if it was earlier in his career, if he was playing for a contract, his butt would be out on the field, and it isn't. And the only wide receiver who really seems to be able to make an impact, one, Travis Benjamin, and two, I really like the leadership I see out of Brian Hartline, and I have no complaints with him. But Dwayne Bowe, come on, man. I just cut him. Be done with it. Eat the $9 million. Get him out of here.
He shouldn't have been on the roster to start to start the regular season. We've had this discussion multiple times, you and I, in private, and let's just air it out now. We didn't like the idea of keeping him because he basically admitted during training camp that he was just taking time off because he'd been through 9 of them and he was not feeling like practicing. Well, you sure as hell feel like cashing that $9 million check, don't you? Get your you-know-what on the field and start playing like a grown-ass man. And he's not. He doesn't care. If it was that important to him, he'd be out there.
Absolutely.